Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome and nice to see you again after many, many months. I think about 2 months break. I never promise, but I hope I can deliver. So today, obviously, we are talking in English, and the lecture today is about meaning and purpose and the words related to those. So in previous discussions, we talked about the importance of looking under the meaning, under the skin, behind the veil of words, which is very important for a critical thinker, because there's a lot of words we take for granted, a lot of concepts we take for granted, but they are actually based on foundation beliefs or various belief systems. And it's important to know that sometimes when we live in a bubble of today, because we're not aware that these things are tied to something. And the word is tied to a concept, and the concept obviously is tied to a belief system. There's almost nothing in the world that is abstract and not contextual. Everything is inside a certain context. That's why understanding this context is the key. That's why you have people who deconstruct the meaning, and sometimes they completely destroy it. But we're not going to do that. We'll just try to outline as an example, through a choice of words, certain concepts. And I'll ask you to think about those concepts and think about what the words mean to you. And so what I did here is just a little bit of it's not call it exercise, but I don't know if you can see it. But here is an example in kind of few words. So here in red, there are some words, and I think they're tied to with a certain thread. So obviously the word God, meaning, sacrifice, virtue, humility, suffering, acceptance, rules, and fate. So what do they mean to you? Think about it. Well, I think what they mean to me is something which is a belief-based system, religious conviction, something deep and spiritual. And they have some certain, not all belief systems, not all religions have exactly the same set of priorities as these. But some maybe you don't have a concept of God as Abrahamic religions do, but they all have this. Just think about it. All of them have it. And obviously that means that we carry that across in our lives, in our systems of thinking today, even if people don't really realize that these concepts are ubiquitous. We know all about them. Now, think about this. This one in green, and I know I can read it, but just read it through. And what you see here is freedom, liberty, fairness, choice, respect, happiness, self-expression, rights, love. Did you notice that I didn't really put any negative connotation in these two? And there's nothing negative. It's all very positive. But it's a completely different set of values here. Notice how we talk about freedom and how the second concept is all about freedom, but the first doesn't really have it. There's no freedom here. Religion, it's all about acceptance and bearing of suffering and virtue. You don't have to be virtuous in liberal order here. And this is what this is about. It's all about individual freedom and choice and respect of the individual. Now, the person may choose to be humble, may choose to be virtuous, but it's not really an important thing. Important is primacy over the individual person. And that person alone over any overarching concept. Sometimes they say, well, the freedom of one individual stops when the other ones start, or things like that. There are lots of words, and liberal concepts are very, very familiar to others, right? And sometimes it feels like because the world is liberal, there's no other alternative. But just read through the words. These words are complete alternative. Maybe they didn't really make our life as material as the second one, but I'm not sure that they're very different scales. You notice that happiness is never on the first scale here. There's no happiness here. Happiness is all about individual feeling. And you would probably very good at putting the word feeling here as well, which I'll do in the second one. Now, the third thing is very different again. So notice it's in black. So nation, duty, land, family, culture, hero, customs, and people. So what does it make you think? Well, obviously, to me at least, this is about nationalism, and it's about love for one's land. Now, these things are also made up. Obviously, everything is made by people. The concept is sort of a substitute for God, so to speak. But here the sacral nature of the land. But obviously, it's a little different because it's also tied up with family, the customs and the culture that unites people. Say in the first one, there is really an individuality in the first two, especially in the religious one. It's all about your virtuous life in a community, but also alone, and how you talk to God here. In the third one, in the nationalistic concept, in the nationalistic frame here, which is sometimes it's very difficult for me to point here. This is all about a cult of hero, somebody who sacrifices himself for his land. The fact that we need to follow customs of the land and love it. The land is absolutely sacred. And then we have a duty to this land, duty to this nation, and nation is tied to lands. And this is a concept of nationalism. That concept is with us today. People follow these in many countries, including mine. And sometimes these things lead to war, but almost anything else leads to war. But it unites people also and gives them a sacred meaning. So did you notice that there are actually quite a lot of meaning in these words? And in all three. And then the final one, it's all about, say, equality, justice, common good, solidarity, power, or new order. And you can probably add here, this is a little variation on liberalism, but it's actually more communism, right? So this is all about building a paradise on earth that is not related to land or people, and it's not about the individual, but it's about to everyone for his needs, and it's all about equal distribution. And now it gains popularity, with equality, equity, and kind of gets into various parities, minority parities, gender, and sort of elimination of all sorts of inequalities. Now, all of these 1, 2, 3, 4 frames generate meaning. All of these frames fire people up, and obviously they wouldn't understand how each other probably have their own points of view, and to some the first seem outdated. Acceptance and virtuous life seems outdated, but so be it. I mean, at the end of the day, we live our lives according to our belief systems and how we perceive that we live with harmony. So if we are with harmony with ourselves, I think that's probably what I think is the life well lived. Now, I'm not really going to deny that I don't like some belief systems like communism, and I'm quite ambivalent about the primacy of the individual and things like happiness and self-expression. But others feel strongly about it. Life revolves around this. And so there's another example here, and I think it's quite important to emphasize here. It's all about, there's a triangle here. So you see on the left here is self, right? So there's something about individuals. So, how you live as an individual. And then, then you go to this, here is the society. How do you fit a society of people? Now, we all kind of tend in our materialistic world live on this line of a triangle. I don't think we go up higher because some people don't really know or believe that something else could exist, like a concept of something bigger than us, God. They don't have faith, and a spiritual dimension is absolutely in the modern secular society is completely outside. The society is completely divorced from it. So that self has to seek salvation separately, away from society. Society no longer gives or offers salvation because now religion or a spiritual life is completely divorced. And that's an important fact in a thing called crisis of meaning, because people do seek meaning. And I believe that, what I just read to you, all of these belief systems have meaning. Now, what would substitute the top of triangle if you don't believe here? What is it? Climate emergency, human sanctity of human life. Why? Wealth, material gain. I don't believe so. And I think people would always struggle getting to the top of the triangle, so to speak. And what this kind of implies is there are actually parts of it. It's very, very simple, simplistic view here, but the parts of that triangle could also be rebranded. Self here. Self is something that you feel inside. These are your emotions and feelings. And this is kind of how you define and self-identify as a person, right? But obviously that's not, own thing you do. You don't only emote, you also then reason. And here's the reason here. So the reasons are reason, logic, and this is what we talk about in our discussions, is a kind of counterweight to feelings and emotions. And that the personality, the person is sort of created by the interdependency of these two elements. Now, all of these, and I'm only talking about externalization, right? So I'm not really talking about deep psychological system. So all of these are also tied to belief systems, right? So I mean, because even though emotions and feelings are prior, they all get externalized, internalized, and then externalized into something else. And what that something else is obviously tied again to your belief system. Here's on top. So your belief system, and then you kind of, it's justified in a way with reasoning and logic, and you can justify it about anything, and you feel connected to it strongly. And when you feel connected to it and can justify it, you must well already kind of in your belief system. And that belief system also demands rules, because without rules, there isn't any system. Some people say, for example, well, I am just a spiritual being, I don't really follow any religion. Okay, so what kind of rules you follow? Do you pray? Do you stand up in the morning? Do you say words? Do you write diary? Do you meditate? And some people do meditate. That's great. Some people do always constantly meditate. And to me, this meditation practice is the same as prayer. It really doesn't matter. So others follow strict routines. One of the kind of in strict routines is common prayer, right? So you always have that on top. The meaning is always on top. So if you think about what's most important for human life, you will find out that it's not all of these things I just listed here on the first slide are important. Freedom, happiness, but I would say happiness is not really an achievable, long-lasting state. So it's self-expression. And I think what is most important is meaning. So if we come back to this, although meaning is on the first one, but all of them kind of offer it, but they don't really offer it. And I think people go through all of these belief systems trying to find meaning, and they fail because they try and find meaning in something which is outside them. What they have to find meaning is something that's bigger than them, connected to them, and is inside of them. And I think this touches the subject of psychology, which hopefully we'll explore next time. But again, reminding what we talked today is about belief systems, how words connect to these belief systems, how they form them, and importance of meaning for all of these. So we cannot be outside meaning. It's impossible to live meaningless life. The meaningless life is basically a life not led. You might just as well be dead. And I think this is what sometimes people don't realize. And I think we'll be talking more about the crisis of meaning in our follow-up discussions. Or maybe if you want other subjects, you're welcome. But please subscribe to my channel, leave your comments, and I'll try to discuss any subjects you find interesting. Have a good day. Thank you.